Good afternoon, Vienna. How are we all?
It's a bit lackluster. Come on, energy, guys. How you doing? Hey, that's a bit better.
Excellent. Well, Haddy actually stole my thunder. I was going to have you all stand up and sit down again, but you beat me to it. So it's great to be here. Great to be here with you, Sophie, as well. So we are here to talk about empowering omnichannel leaders. Sophie, your role is to uplift omnichannel capability globally across GSK, and that is a key part of your customer experience agenda. Now, we've heard already, omnichannel means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Yeah. So let's start with, what does omnichannel mean for GSK?
Okay, thanks, Al, and thanks for inviting me here. So I think we've heard a lot today about customer experience and about the pandemic and customer expectations really accelerating through the pandemic. I do agree with what Andrew said earlier about all these trends and myths about customer experience not having been there before. They were there before, they were just accelerated much faster. And at GSK, we have a big ambition to reach and improve 2.5 billion patients' health by 2030. And the only way we're going to do that is by differentiating our experiences. And one of the ways in which we're doing that is through omnichannel. And we believe that omnichannel is about personalized, seamless, and connected customer experiences across the organization.
So what have been the key drivers in helping you to uplift the omnichannel capability across the organization?
So quite a few. So I'll take a deep breath and try and go through it calmly. Being a big organization, we have taken a multi-layered approach to the transformation, and it's been happening over a number of years, so it hasn't happened sort of at lightning speed. We've had a really strong partnership, and I'll talk a little bit more detail later, between the global teams and the regional teams and the local teams as well, and that's worked really well. But we've also created a successful end-to-end transformation that's touched on creating a new customer experience group, of which I'm part, which combines what was pharmaceutical marketing and our technology group. We've also streamlined our content production processes, created new internal agencies. We've reviewed our global to local talent framework, because actually we can accelerate all we like, but unless we institutionalize what we're doing and make it part of our recruitment processes and our talent development processes, it'll just be another project. And of course, we've measured and measured and measured.
So, I mean, that's comprehensive. I mean, Christian Schultz, I think, talked a lot about the capability piece earlier. Now, we could dive into a lot of those. We don't have time to do that today. So I'd like to focus a bit more on the people aspect, because you've had some tremendous results there. And I think one of the challenges that we see at the moment, and certainly that I've seen across various different programs, is how to encourage people to spend time on their own learning and development. So can you talk to us a little bit around how you've achieved this?
Of course, and there are two personal aspects here that I've used to drive some of the aspects that I've been working on with. So one is my personal experience. Before I was in this role, I was running a global marketing team in France, running several successful launches, and I know exactly how time poor the teams are in the markets and how much they have to do. And before that, I was a global marketer, so I've seen both sides of the fence. And I was also on the joyful position, let's put it that way, of implementing a one-size-fits-all learning approach, which had wonderful accreditation, wonderful content, really well designed, that landed at the wrong time for all our people and was far too time-consuming. So learning from some of those experiences, and I think the previous presenter talked about keeping your employees at the center of any successful transformation, and that's really what we've done here. We've created a personalized omnichannel learning experience, which is for field, marketing, and medical roles, both in the global teams or in the local teams. It's a non-mandatory learning format, all bite-sized chunks, so using quite a lot of good practices from Netflix and other things. And it's been hugely successful. So we've stood it up in about 4 months in an agile, iterative way. Since we launched it at the end of January, we've had 11,000 visits to the learning platform, and 37% of our employees are repeat monthly users, because they keep coming back because we update the content, right? It's not a once and done learning approach. But even better than that, and something I'm particularly proud of, because it's really easy to say, great, you've had 11,000 visits. That's, well done, Sophie, that's a great job. But how well have people been engaging with actually the learning and the content? So there are 5 modules in the learning platform that we've created. And each module has quizzes. And I can say that as of today, 26,000 knowledge quizzes have been completed. And that's not just module 1, that's actually evenly split across all 5. So what does that tell me? That tells me that people who are engaging in the learning are actually doing it and testing their knowledge across all the modules, not just going in and spending 2 seconds in the learning and then getting out again. The other piece that's been quite unique, and we'll talk about that, I think, shortly in a bit more detail, is because if you think about that as the foundational learning platform, one of our big gaps that we had identified was in leaders. And you've talked, actually, a lot of people and colleagues today have talked about the importance of leaders and them owning their leadership change. And what we found was that that's all well and good to give people a slide deck. What can they actually do in their day-to-day to help equip their teams? And this is born out of my personal experience in France, leading a team that wanted to deliver some technical omni-channel. And actually, I didn't know how best to support them. So what we've created is quite a unique reverse mentoring program for leaders, which has had some phenomenal success. 25% capability uplift as a result of leaders going through the program, and a rating of 4.8 out of 5 from participants, leaders who participated in the program, rating their mentors, who are all internal mentors.
I mean, there are some really good results. I mean, I've worked on a number of different learning programs, and that is quite phenomenal, as you mentioned. What do you think have been the key factors in contributing to that success?
So 3 or 4 things I'd pull out. One is that the reverse mentoring program is a one-to-one matching program, and we have a registration process which assesses where people are in their omni-channel understanding, knowledge, confidence, and also, most importantly, this is the second feature, what they need to drive within their team. So what actions and goals they have for going into the program. And that means that they can take practical action during the program and also afterwards. The other piece that we have focused on is it's a really short program. You mentioned time poor earlier, Sam, in your first question.
Yeah.
And the program is 6 to 8 weeks long. So some people who are experts in mentoring kind of go, that's really short. And that's deliberate because we want it to be actionable and impactful as much as possible. And the last piece is that it's cross-functional. So we match mentors and participants as much as possible cross-functionally and cross-geographically. Tough to say at this time.
It is tough. Yeah, it is tough.
As well.
So tell me a bit more about that cross-functional piece. We heard earlier around that synergy and the collaboration, and it's long been a challenge within the pharmaceutical industry. So tell me a little bit more about how that's worked.
Well, the one on the learning platform side, actually, we designed it from the start with all 3 functions in mind. So I had representatives from medical, marketing and sales who helped design the content. And actually, the learning program is open to everybody. So if you're in medical and you're curious and you want to learn about what the sales teams are having to do in omni-channel, then you can go and have a look at the content. You can take those sales quizzes as well, or equally marketing and vice versa. For the leaders program, that was a bit of a gamble, I'll be honest. The initial pilot that we did was only within commercial, and as we were sort of scaling up, we didn't have enough mentors from across the organisation, so we took a bit of a gamble. And it's worked, I have to say, really, really well. And the mentors get as much benefit and value of the mentoring pairing process as the participants. They've all highly recommended. I have mentors now that are in the 3rd cohort in a row, and they get different people each time, and they learn and appreciate what it was really like to deliver omni-channel from a medical perspective in a different country and a different geography. And it's been really, really powerful and a massive unintended, well, now intended, because we're rolling out more cohorts, so it's now intentional, business benefit of that program.
So you also talked about geography as well. So you've got that challenge of cross-functional. One of the other challenges is how do you create a global program that you have across, 60 plus markets, and make sure they land at local level. So how have you managed to tackle that side of things as well?
So good question, and always a challenge when you're in a global role, and having been on the end of global programs in a market, you're always like, oh, here's something else I'm being served. I guess the two differentiators in what we've developed in the programs that I've mentioned is that we've used business people and regional colleagues to partner with the content and the rollout of the materials as well. And I'm just me that's in this role. I don't have a big team. And so I've had to work really closely, and I've enjoyed working very closely with regional colleagues, with medical colleagues, and held them accountable for rolling this out and supporting it. And each region has had the flexibility to go live when it made sense for them in the way that made sense for them. So that flexibility has been quite important. And I can give a specific example, for the learning program. The Europeans have actually taken all the content from the learning program for marketeers and built it into a face-to-face 5-day immersion program focused on onboarding new marketing staff. And the platform remains available for everybody else. And someone mentioned to me yesterday at the speakers event about, well, what about the US, right? Because the US is always a bit tricky when we talk about global. Well, I'm really pleased to say that the US, they do have their own learning program at GSK. It's a platform and development system. But again, they've taken 85% of the content from the global platform and imported it into their learning environment so that the US marketeers can have access to that same content. And then they've added in their local process elements and ways of working. I think the other piece is just not starting with too much. So we started quite small, 80% good enough content, and we've updated the content regularly, adding translations, for example, adding more videos and other examples and case studies that have really resonated with the teams.
Oh, that builds on that whole test and learn approach that we've heard quite a bit about over the course of today. From all this work that you've done, obviously you have an ambition to create those personalised, seamless and connected experiences. How do you feel that GSK is performing in delivering on that? And I guess more broadly as well, the industry as a whole?
Yeah. Well, we've seen a lot of studies today. I'm going to quote just two more short ones. I think it's fair to say that our HCPs have much higher expectations, and that as an industry, we are doing quite well, but no one's really excelling. And I looked to the DT Consulting survey for CX quotient that is done every year, over 7,000 HCPs across different specialties. If you haven't seen that survey, I encourage you to have a look at it. And there's some good pointers there in terms of what we could improve. And I read on the plane yesterday, McKinsey studies in Europe showing that 30% of HCPs are satisfied with the experiences they get from the industry. So we still have some work to go, right? We have some hurdles as an industry we still need to overcome compared to other industries like finance or retail. They have more access to one-to-one data and individualized data than we do. But we are getting there with consent levels and various other things that some of our colleagues are talking about today. But then I think we also need, as an industry, some true disruptors. I was listening to a podcast from the CEO of Octopus Energy, who was picking his 6 desert island discs. That if you get abandoned on a desert island, they get to choose their 6 favorite records. And he was talking about how he created this quite unique energy company based around his own personal frustrations as an adult of not being able to get his bills for energy. And he just built his whole company around a great customer experience, supporting customers at their moment of need in the energy crisis with electric blankets and various other things as well. And it's quite phenomenal because they've gone from a nothing company against quite big energy players to now being almost number 2 in the UK energy market, which is phenomenal. And I think we need more of that, disruption in our industry to really generate something different.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think when you talk about that Octopus example and you talk about how that business has been built off his own personal experience, I think every one of us in this room can relate to being a customer of pharmaceuticals, not necessarily HCP, but as patients. Every single one of us is a patient. And healthcare itself has gone through a seismic shift that has transcended from, what is the medical treatment? What is the GP going to give me or that specialist going to give me to support my condition? to, the services that Hadi and some others were talking about, the My Sugar app, for example. But even beyond that, it's gone through, how is my mental and my emotional health impacted by this condition? Can nutrition help me in certain ways? You see a lot of cancer, dialogue and articles. From my own experience, and I look at women's health more here, I can draw on that, and I can see organisations, right, coming up with, we're building more into customer experience here, looking at providing more of that ecosystem of support, and helping patients to live normal lives or better lives with the condition that they have, be that through a network of healthcare professionals, not just the GP, nutritional plans, exercise plans, all personalised for them. It's a very different experience to, I guess, one that we were used to maybe 15, 20 years ago. With that in mind, how do you think the pharmaceutical industry is going to play into that as a healthcare ecosystem and deliver those sorts of broader customer and patient experiences?
I do realise we've just got 3 minutes left and you land me with that question.
I do, yeah, I do apologise.
That's fine.
You can come find us later. Come find you later.
Find me later. Look, I don't think I've got the magic bullet answer on this one. We've seen earlier this morning the huge mismatch between what the pharmacy thinks our customers need, pharmaceutical industry says our customers need and expect, and then what our customers, how they want to consume the information that we provide them with. And I think we're a long way from creating that. We have a role to play in that ecosystem, clearly, and we need to do more around customer engagement and personalising our engagements with customers, understanding where they are and what they really need at an individual level before we can get into that ecosystem space much more robustly, I would say.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Well, we've still got 3 minutes left, so any questions from the audience? There's one over here.
Hey, hi, hello. 1, 2, 1. Okay, now it's working. Thanks for sharing the examples. I think they were very useful. One thing I struggle with is still this omni-channel versus channel, because I tend to see that anytime we do anything that is online or push to customers, we label it as omni-channel, whereas it could be just, like digital education or something that we've done. So what I really want to know is from what you shared around the 26,000 surveys, and the quizzes that were done, how did you use that as insights? Were you looking at the results and trying to see, for example, where they were not doing really great and using that as an insight on what your next educational program or module would be or should be? Because I think this is really the power of omnichannel, not only pushing stuff, but even getting insights. So maybe a bit on the experience around that.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And we're still evolving the learning. So the learning platform, I'll be frank, has got some technical limitations within which we had to work. So we can get quite a lot of insights on how employees are engaging with the content, the learning content, what they're completing. And we regularly ask them for we do run user satisfaction questionnaires on the platform to inform, therefore, what we need to add in terms of new content. We haven't yet used the knowledge quizzes for that because you just get a view of what they're getting right or not. But as everything in the knowledge quizzes today is based on the content that is there already, that wouldn't necessarily help us inform more gaps. But we combine it then with what I mentioned the regions, so Region Europe running a face-to-face, then we do listening through those groups and then pick up other learning gaps that way. I guess the other piece that we're running, we did a baseline, and I measured measurement very quickly in the first question. We ran a baseline capability survey across our top 10 markets this year and across all our functions and our top 4 brands. And we're looking to repeat that in the new year, which will then give us, hopefully, some great wins of what we've really helped to drive forward in terms of capability uplift, but also, I suspect, identify some new opportunities where we can, again, look at different interventions. And maybe it's not just the self-directed learning platform we need to look at. There's perhaps other things we need to do as well.
I think we're out of time.
Happy to answer any other questions later, though. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.